want her to notice.
If you're anything like me, you probably struggle with lack of motivation pretty often. I think that's normal. I mean, we're not really meant to work all the time, right? If it were up to me, I would be chilling by the beach all day, sitting by the fire, not doing anything, right? But that's not my reality, and I need to be a productive member of society sometimes. So I've had to learn a few ways to combat my bias towards laziness. You can also call it creative rut or artist block or not being inspired. No matter the name, this demon threatens our creativity. So what do we do? I really like to pair my difficult task with a fun reward. So this could look like I'm avoiding a painting and I decide, well, I really want to watch that new movie, so I'm going to put the movie on while I paint. And it kind of pairs the difficult task with the fun task. Or if you're struggling to exercise, maybe it's you treat yourself to a really good podcast or a new playlist while you're working out. Or it could be a reward right after. So you need to write 20 pages for your book and you're avoiding it, and you say, well, right after I finish, I'm going to reward myself with my favorite restaurant takeout food. You know, it's just making the hard task a little bit more fun with a reward. I like doing this because my brain really starts to associate the creative, difficult tasks with rewards and fun. It just helps me look forward to the task even more. I like to focus on quantity over quality. Now, this seems counterproductive, and it doesn't mean that I don't put effort into things. I absolutely do. But I really live by the rule that done is better than perfect. And perfectionism is just an advanced form of procrastination. By focusing on 80% good and then moving on to the next thing, I'm able to complete things more often and therefore get a boost of confidence each time I complete things. So if I tried to do like 120% awesome on each thing, it would just take me a lot longer and the stress would be a bit overwhelming, and I don't think I would feel as confident because I wouldn't be completing things as often. I focus on getting better through repetition versus making each thing perfect. So instead of making the perfect painting once a month, I'd rather make like good paintings, twice a week. And you inevitably get better by just doing the thing over and over. I'm a huge fan of cleaning my physical and digital space. I find this one to be so effective when I'm feeling tired or unmotivated, or it's, like it's gonna be one of those days where I just don't get anything done. I try to just get up and like clean a little bit, whether it's tidy up my art space or do the dishes or do the laundry, just do like one cleaning thing. And I find that it gives me a lot of motivation and energy, like just getting up and physically moving. It can be said the same for digital space. If you need to work on like a web design project, but you have 1,000 tabs open, you're not gonna really want to start on your project because you're gonna be stressed about, the situation. So take a few minutes, save all your tabs into a bookmark, close it down, clear off your desktop, and just, you're gonna feel so much better when you don't have all that digital clutter. Setting timers. I'm a big fan of setting timers, and I feel like it works so well. I don't know why, but when I set a timer, I like immediately get competitive with myself and I want to race towards the end and like make it. So I love to set like 10-minute timers to clean the house, or an hour timer to paint, or when I was writing this script, I put 45 minutes. It doesn't really matter about the specific number. It's just about seeing the numbers ticking, and it just triggers something that makes you want to complete your task in that given time. Okay, do something adjacent to the task that you're avoiding. So if I'm avoiding painting, I'm a painter, then something adjacent might be varnishing a painting, prepping some canvas, or mixing some paint. Something that is still like in the right direction and is going to move me forward in painting, but not the specific task. And the reason I like to do this is because you're still kind of procrastinating, but you're also being productive. And once I start varnishing a painting over here, I'm gonna be like, okay, that painting I was avoiding over here is looking less intimidating. I got the momentum. It's all about the momentum. If you're a writer and you're avoiding sitting down to write, maybe you just sit down and come up with some title ideas or some character names, or you just set up your page and like make a to-do list or something. Just do something that's related to kind of get that momentum going. I like to use the 5-minute rule, or alternatively you could use the one thing rule. So the 5-minute rule is where you just say, okay, for 5 minutes I'm just going to go at it, just tackle the task and do what I can. So if you're avoiding creating a logo design for a client, You just set a 5-minute timer and just say, I'm just gonna start. And you just do as much as you can in 5 minutes and then you stop. And like I mentioned before, it's about the momentum. You're not even trying to do it perfect or like complete the project. You're just trying to like start, which is the hardest part. Alternatively, the one thing rule is something I use all the time. So with painting, I'll be like avoiding sitting down to paint, and I will just say, okay, all you need to do is that one cloud in the top right of the painting, that one white cloud. That's it. You only get one tube of paint out and one brush, and you just go for 5 minutes. And then once I start, I'm like, okay, this wasn't that intimidating. Let me sit down for another hour and work on this painting. It's all about the momentum and just starting and making it so simple that you're not intimidated, just lowering the barrier to entry. I'm a big fan of tricking my brain anytime I can. The next one is learning new things that are in your field. So this is kind of similar to the adjacent tasks, but this could be watching YouTube videos, tutorials, taking a Skillshare class, podcast, book, anything where you're sort of learning new things about your field. Sometimes we're able to overcome the creative block and just get to work. Other times we kind of need to do other things and just sort of get away from the thing that we're avoiding for a minute. And I really like this option of just learning things, watching some tutorials, and just kind of getting in the right headspace, but you don't have to take action yet. So in my case, painting, if I'm just not really feeling confident about the painting and I don't want to sit down and do it, maybe I look up a tutorial about something that I'm working on in that painting, like how to paint clouds or how to do this brush stroke. I kind of just watch the tutorial and sort of get in the right headspace. And it gives me a little bit more time to avoid the task, but also just ease my way into it. And you're still progressing forward because you're learning, and learning is always a good use of time. Learn to rely on systems instead of motivation, and also expect the creative work to be a struggle. If you've read The War of Art, you know all about the resistance, and you know that he talks about trudging through the trudgery. We have to think of our creative work, as the same as we would as our day job. We show up every day no matter how we feel. We need to do the same with our creative work. It's not about working when you're exhausted, but it is about showing up day in and day out, whether you want to or not. And motivation is a very fleeting source of energy. So I like to rely on systems and habits to show up every day. If you wait around for motivation, it may only come once a month or so, and it's a really high, but that's not going to sustain you 9 to 5 daily. But what will show up daily consistently is that automation, that discipline, those habits that you've built over time. And I also feel like telling myself that it's gonna be a bit of a trudge, it's gonna be a bit of work, it's not gonna always be fun. I feel like that takes a lot of the pressure off. Some people think that their creative work is supposed to be like fun and rainbows and butterflies all the time, and then they're a bit disappointed when it's not. So by telling myself that it's the opposite, that it's just work, I'm showing up every day like I would a day job, I feel like it takes the pressure off, and I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to be fun today, but I'm still gonna show up no matter how I feel about it. It's also kind of that like you're not special thing, which I love. I love telling myself like you're not special. There's a million people out there doing what you want to do with less resources, less time, less energy, less everything. So you can do it. You're not special. And knowing that my struggles aren't unique is actually liberating, because it means other people overcame them and so can I. And lastly, this is arguably the most important one, is knowing when you're actually exhausted and burnt out and when you're just a little bit unmotivated. If you are feeling so exhausted and burnt out, you have to let your body rest. That is so important. Versus if you're just feeling a little bit unmotivated and procrastinating, that's a big difference. And knowing the difference is so important. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at knowing the difference. I can usually tell, like, am I physically drained? Or am I just kind of like, avoiding and like thinking like, oh, I should probably do that, but I'm gonna clean instead or whatever. So it's about tuning into yourself and really understanding what you're actually feeling, what you're needing in that moment, and then taking action based on how you feel. Sometimes you need a night off with a movie and popcorn and chilling, and the other days you need to push yourself and give a little tough love and, show up anyway. And one of my favorite quotes is mood follows action. So a lot of times you're not gonna feel like doing the thing. Once you start, though, also the mood comes later. So mood follows the action. You don't wait to feel good to show up. You show up, then you feel good. Learning that was so game changing for me. But again, it's about knowing your body, and if you need that day off, make sure you take it. So yeah, those are the 8 things that help me when I'm feeling unmotivated or have artist block. So I would love to hear what you do and what helps you, when you're not feeling inspired or creative. Even our dreams are gonna feel like work a lot of the time, and that's okay because it's a hell of a lot better than any other job option out there. And really the goal here is not to eliminate work. It's just about making our creative work meaningful and purposeful, and also making it approachable and doable and really fun along the way also.
I want her to notice what I don't notice. Space between us now.